Carbon Leaf.
Welcome back to All That Jam, where music has no limits. We're joined today by Barry Privett from Carbon Leaf. How are we doing today, Barry?
Good, Kevin. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I'm very excited about this. You guys have, over the years, your name was always on, I grew up on the East Coast. Your name would always appear, the 8x10, 930, all those clubs up and down the East Coast. And, got an email from your manager saying you had some new music, and I was like, let's do this. So why don't we jump in? You have a new one coming out. What is how many, what is that, 14, 15?
It's so it's a good question. I think it's 15 or 16. We have this is our 21st recording, so some of them were a few re-records on a few albums. Some of them are live albums, but yeah, I would say probably maybe our 15th record. I needed to go back and count.
Wow. There you go. So what, your last one was what, around 2020? Is that when
so really it's our first, so in 2013 we released 2 full-length albums, and then we were like, well, let's not do that again. And it was just a lot of work, and then we would spend the next 10 years doing again 3 re-recordings from our label years of 3 albums. And then we did a live 27 song Blu-ray. We did another live record. We did 2 5-song EPs. So this one, Time is the Playground, is the new one that's coming out on the 27th of September. And it's really our first full length in about a decade or so.
Wow. Yeah, you I like to say you Taylor Swift a few of your things there. Why don't we talk about that? That's fascinating. And then we can get into the new one and try to follow the timeline. But you re-recorded your albums. That's fascinating to me. Was she the inspiration, or did you have the idea first?
Yeah, Taylor Swift Carbon Leaf that because we did it first. And we were on Vanguard Records for 3 albums between 2004 and 2008 or 9. And so the 3 records that we had, once we were out of the contract, we owned the songs, but they owned the master recordings. So it's kind of a weird world where it's like, well, there are songs, but we can't actually use them if someone wanted to, use it or whatever. So we decided to re-record the 3 albums, and that was a good experience. And and so we did that in 2014, 15, and 16. And so now we're back to owning 100% of our catalog. If we wanted to utilize, one of our, Life Less Ordinary or whatever, then we could just take it off of our, re-recorded master. So worked out well.
That's fantastic.
But yeah, Taylor Swift, she probably got our newsletter and probably just decided to.
I like that. We'll have to ask her at some point. When you were thinking about the re-recordings, was there any conversation about switching things up in a big way? I see so many bands kind of taking directions with different tempos or just, various other changes. Was that anything you all talked about?
It was. The Indian Summer was the first one that we did, and we had that's kind of a classic fan favorite, that album, and we were like, we don't want to touch this. We like the way it is. And so we actually, we're in our studio now. We just finished up rehearsals for the upcoming tour with the new album, so we didn't know how to play all the songs. But Terry is kind of our studio engineer, and he was, he had a lot of forensic work to do in reproducing sounds that we, had recorded, a decade prior. And
what pedal was that?
Right.
Exactly right. What pedal was that? What Outboard Gear was the studio that we recorded in using, and of course they're on a Neve console, and now we're like in a Mac. different world. But the challenge was to try to get the vibe of all those sounds, and then re-record you know, without being in that same space, in that same environment with that same gear. It was a real trick, but we did it, very faithful to the first record. And then the second record, which we weren't really happy with because we just rushed it, you know, the Love, Lost, Hope, Repeat. And so then we were like, aha, well, we can take this album and now do all the things that we want to do with hindsight. And so we did a lot of different things to make it feel better. And then we kind of did the same thing with the third one. So, and yet they still, you know, sounded like the original. It wasn't so far flung. Anyway, we don't get too much in the habit of like going back in and tinkering, but that was a good opportunity and a good learning experience, you know, and a good break from just like, well, I guess we'll just write a whole nother new record. You know, it was a way of, you know, honing your recording chops without, you know, having to write, you know, a whole nother batch of songs right away.
I think that a forensic audiologist is a career path. If not, it totally should be. Because I am thinking about what that would have been like to listen and really kind of think about, well, where were we at that time? How did we do this? How did we approach, you know, whatever components? So that is fascinating to me.
Yeah, it's for like I said, it's like it was like for a forensics experiment. You know, it's like really researching stuff that you hadn't really considered or thought about in a long time. You know.
Very cool.
Right, and that was that run of albums, I guess. What was the other one, Echo or that you redid, or How the West was one? Which one was the other one?
No, it was Indian Summer, which came out in 2004. It was Love, Lost, Hope, Repeat, which came out in 2006, I think, and then Nothing Rhymes with Woman came out in 2009. So those are the ones we re-recorded. Yeah,
right. It's very very interesting because Echo, obviously the boxer, you know, it was a huge hit for you guys. Did Vanguard come calling after that? Wasn't there a few years gap? Like you hit big with Echo. Was it a world tour kind of thing that it took till 2004?
So Echo, you know, we were still an unsigned band. That was our fourth album, and we were kind of like, we didn't really know what else to do at that point. But you know, we put it out, and it was well received. And then we entered The Boxer, which was a song off of it, on an online music contest, a few contests. You know, this was back when the internet was still becoming like a thing, and all these .com sites were popping up, and everybody was doing contests and giving away cash prizes. And it's like, upload your song and win $20,000, and which actually happened. We actually won 20 grand off of like uploading The Boxer. You know, we got it placed in a Pontiac Vibe commercial just because it was a contest online. It was ridiculous. It was like the Wild West, you know. And you know, it would take 10 or 15 minutes to like upload an MP3, you know, to these sites. This is back, you know, 2001. So anyway, when we uploaded The Boxer for this American Music Award contest, that kind of breathed new life into the band because we ended up winning this contest and ended up performing on the American Music Awards in 2002 as the first recipient of this unsigned band contest, essentially. And then from there, you know, we were able to play markets outside kind of our East Coast, you know, corridor, because some DJs were picking up the story about this unsigned band playing the AMAs, and they started spinning the song just because it was a news article, right? But then the song kind of started getting some traction at a few radio stations, and that kind of slowly put us on another track for touring. And then Vanguard Records heard about the story. They said, "Hey, what are you guys up to next?" And we're like, "Well, we're actually in the middle of recording our next our album, which would have been Indian Summer." And they were like, "Well, can we hear it?" And so when we finished, we sent it to them, and they said, "We want to release this. Can we license it?" we licensed it to them, and then they took a song with them to radio, and then Life Less Ordinary started getting radio at Hot AC and AAA. So really, we went from 2 years. We went from like, look, we've released our 4th independent album. I'm not sure we can take this any further, to uploading a few songs on the internet and then like having something happen. It's just one of those things. But yeah.
So make your own luck.
Yeah. And like, so I'm listening to you and I'm wondering, in your opinion, then thinking about that era, when you're talking about kind of uploading the songs and all that, compared to today, is it easier or not as easy to get that kind of, recognition or kind of, visibility, or is it just different in 2024?
Yeah, it's kind of funny because now it's just there's so many avenues of distribution, and the focus is such a disparate kind of playing field now. I think what do I know? I think on one hand it's harder, and on the other hand it's easier. It's certainly easier for us to take advantage of a lot of different exposure points, but everybody on the receiving end is so overwhelmed with content stuff. It's hard to kind of like actually get up there, so it's kind of like the same old problem as it was back when there was 2 radio stations and 3 TV channels, and it's just like the distribution fields are wide open, and yet because of that, there's just millions and millions of things to grab people's attention.
Maybe it's just more complicated. Maybe that's the answer.
I mean, people only have so much time in the day to consume entertainment. It's just it's rough. And even on the road, 15 years ago, it's like, you could book a tour 6 months in advance, and you could get the rooms you wanted. Now you have to book at least a year in advance, and you're like 4th, 5th hold with thousands of other bands trying to get into the one venue that fits your size or demo, and there's a lot going on, a lot of noise.
So you said that you were rehearsing, going through the new songs there. You have a whole new album. Let me ask you about set list. When I guess do you have to play the hits? Maybe that's my question. Do you feel like you have to play the boxer every night?
We don't feel like I mean, look, it's a good question. We have, I keep a log of all the shows we play in every city, and when I go to the next city, the city again, I'll pull up the last time we were through, or the last 2 times we were through. I'll look at everything we did. I'll pull out the 5 songs that were better to play them than to not have played them, and I'll put them in red. I'll put them in the new set list, and then I'll look at all the did. And I'll be like, all right, we can rotate songs, we can rotate out some of these songs and we can put in other things. So every time through is going to be, 5 or 6 core songs, but then there's going to be 15, songs that we didn't play last time through. And luckily our fans know enough of our material where we can, play it that way and have them still be like really into it. Not sure if I lost you there.
Yeah, no. I think something goofy a little happened. Well, so the new album, how many of the songs get the call, or are you going to be rotating them, seeing which ones are the quote unquote hits off of it?
Yeah. I'm sensitive to like going in and being like, hey, we're going to play our whole record for you tonight. It's like, there's got to be a balance. So I think we'll feel it out. But then again, people have been waiting a long time. Our fans have been waiting a long time for new music, and I feel like this is a strong record. So we're gonna get in and probably play, you know, no less than 3 songs, but you know, no more than 6, right? We'll try to, you know, we'll try to just see what feels good, and definitely we're gonna play all of them through the tour and kind of just see what goes well. And you hope you have 12 bangers, right? I mean, but it may not work that way. So
the album, I got to listen to it. They sent an advance copy to us. And I tell you what, it feels like you guys are pushing a little bit from what you've done in the past, but it's also so familiar. It almost like just wraps you in a hug. I feel like I've heard it before, and it's what I expect from you. Do you think there's a Carbon Leaf sound?
wrapped in a hug. I love that phrase, wrapped in a hug. We've heard a few similar things from a few of the Kickstarter fans that already have the album. Yeah, it's striking exactly what we wanted. We wanted something that felt like kind of an old school kind of Carbon Leaf record in some of that sweet spot, but also also felt a little fresh. And you know, we set out at the beginning to kind of make a rock record that kind of had that vibe. It's a very dense record, like some of like Indian Summer, Echo. You listen to those, and we have a lot of tracks in there, you know, and I like that. That's fun because you're just kind of in a sandbox, and you know, you're just building a world. Yeah, I feel like if it feels kind of fresh but also familiar, then we've achieved kind of what we set out to do. And a lot of the songs on this project started from old demos that we kind of went and picked back out of the lot, things that I had been working on for maybe 15, even one song I think is 18 years old, that we recorded on a tape in our basement, you know. And I was like, some of those things I had like a chorus idea or a theme or a melody, but I couldn't punch my way into the story. And so I just kept shelving it, and I'd come back to it and shelve it and come back. And I finally was like, I'm going to pull these out. I think these will fit this record great. And I'm going to like find the story. And it took a lot of work to do that. But I feel good about what we did.
So do you think it's maybe a little bit more open for you all to stretch? I mean, you all have the different influences, you know, the bluegrass, Celtic, you know, some pop, just thinking over time. So I think about some bands that have, you know, been together for a number of years, and when they try to go in a slightly different direction, or at least the fans think they are, that's not always well received. You know, people kind of love what they are used to. But maybe I'm thinking because you all really bring in so many different layers, might give you a little more flexibility there.
Yeah, for sure. Now when we started out that way, you know, like we started in one direction and then took a couple of records to like find a little bit more of kind of what we were going to be about. And luckily, with the 5 guys in the band, you know, the musicians in the band, the players, the instrument players, you know, they're all coming from different directions musically, or stuff they're working on might be different from what the other is working on. And so what I get from them is a lot of different ideas across a lot of different genres. And then I'll be able to take those pieces of music, the demos, and kind of subdivide them into, you know, filter them through what my job is, and kind of almost make like completely different stories, based on some of that feel. And that's fun for me. And, you know, I think as long as there's kind of like a thread there, you know, it's going to feel like a Carbon Leaf record, you know, unless, you know, we're going like way out there, which, you know, we haven't gone way out there, but I think our fans appreciate that. It helps the band not feel bored, that we're just staying on, you know, our own one guitars throughout, you know, the whole set. So we're lucky in that respect.
Right. Now, do you feel like that the lyrics tie into that? Let's talk about the lyrics. I feel like that there are some key lyrical motifs and arcs that run through your body of work there. Nature, the natural world, and then you use that, I feel like, to look at life and relationships and things like that. Is that an accurate or fair description?
No, that is. I couldn't have said it better myself, and I'm glad you brought it up, because I'm never good at like describing like what I write
What
about. I don't know. You know, this record, you know, we announced this record at the start of the pandemic, when everybody had just gotten kicked off our tour because everything was shutting down and everybody went into quarantine, and we launched the project. And then, you know, it was my job to kind of like just go off by myself and figure out what the next batch of songs was going to be thematically, lyrically. And I started ruminating on time and isolation, and then the places I went to, maybe 5 or 6 different places. I spent, you know, maybe a month or so in each place, mostly kind of in the winter time, some in the springtime, but yeah, kind of in nature. Once was you know, in a house on a lake in Wisconsin in the dead of winter, and the lake was frozen, and, you know, it was stark and remote and beautiful. And then, you know, and then I stayed in, you know, this other remote place in New England in the winter, and then stayed in a barn loft on the James River. And so I got a lot of different kind of places to be by myself in nature, feeling very isolated and small, but not necessarily in a bad way, you know. And so I think that little bit of insignificance, you know, was like the light I needed to kind of be like, all right, here I am in the universe, and this is what you have.
Oh,
Is that me?
no, it's him. We're
Okay.
having technical difficulties. We'll see. He was in and out a little bit there. You know, they always laugh at me that I say that the internet's just floating around, and if you get a good gust of wind, sometimes you lose your.
My favorite is if you send someone a text message, the world's you know, smallest triangle, just boop right up there, back down.
Right. Right. Let's see. Let's send him a message. Tell him if he
Yeah,
needs to, he can jump out and jump in if he needs.
it's like the StreamYard version of turn it off and on again,
Yes.
which is the thing to do, you know.
Yes. Okay. Do you remember where we were? Because I'm gonna forget. Oh, we were talking about lyrics. Lyrics.
We were talking about lyrics. Yeah.
See, he figured it out. He jumped out. Let's see if he gets back in. If not, it'll be a very awkward ending to the interview.
The lyrics question is a good one. I mean, I think that that's always something that we're thinking about, you with your background, you know, and I think people have different opinions on what kind, the chicken or the egg, right? You know, what comes first.
I listened to this Robert Hunter interview at one time, and that's what he was like. It's the eternal question: what came first, the words or the music?
Yeah, for
And
sure.
he said it depends.
I think that makes the most sense. But I'm sure, I feel like we've talked to people who said, you know, for them, it really is whatever hook or, you know, chorus maybe gets them thinking. So
Yeah.
I don't know. You know, I listen to so much instrumental music that when there are lyrics in music I'm listening to, they actually catch my attention a lot more, because so much of what I listen to does not have lyrics, and that's by choice, honestly.
Right.
So
We got this album. When was it coming out? Let's make sure we know. Their album comes out the 27th. So what is that? Next Friday. You're gonna look for the album, everybody. We'll put a link to it. There is a single out, Back Mask 1983. I'm going to guess that he had some issue in the studio he was in.
Probably. Well, I'll just mention while we're talking about Time is the Playground that the merch, the kind of branding around the album is fantastic, and it definitely has that feel. You mentioned, that song 1983 definitely reminds me almost of old like VHS tape ads or logos, because it kind of has like that rainbow effect, but very much kind of simplistic. It evokes that time for sure.
The 70s. Why can't it be the 70s again?
Oh, Kevin.
Well, I tell you what, next week we have one, next Thursday at 3, we have the Boom Yeah, which are a band out of England coming up. And we'll do some links on social media to some of their stuff. But you like the new Master sounds, you like George Duke, you like Herbie Hancock in the 70s. Boom, this is going to be your thing.
Yeah, and they've been around for quite a while. Started out with a different name. So
yeah, we're gonna say if we see him, we're gonna bring him in. This is the beauty of doing live.
Don't you love it? Well, the good thing is we know we can talk.
Yeah, we can definitely talk. So what do you have coming up? What's that thing called that you're going to?
Oh yeah, so I'll be at Hillberry Festival in Arkansas first week of October, and I actually will be there with Positive Legacy, who is going to be a part of Hillberry for the very first time. This is the first international kind of destination festival that Hillberry is, I think, going to be for Positive Legacy. So it's going to be fun. I'll be at the table a bunch and hopefully chatting with a lot of artists and vendors and just people who are attending. So I'm excited for that.
Right, Arkansas in October. What is the weather like?
I've heard it's beautiful. Yeah.
So there we go. How you doing?
I'm sorry, I disconnected. I mean, it says I'm showing full bars. I don't know what happened, but it took me that long to get back.
No problem.
Weird things happen. Ghost in the machine. Ghost in the machine there. So yeah, so we were talking a little bit we were talking about lyrics there. Let me throw this at you. Do you feel like there is an arc to your songwriting?
Probably not. I feel like variations on the theme, perhaps. And I don't know with the arc. I don't know if there is an arc. I'm not sure where I am on it.
Right.
Do you think there's an arc?
I feel like that it's more that you have a set of metaphors and motifs that you return to, and if you become familiar with your body of work as a whole, there are certain things that when they show up in certain songs are reminiscent of images from older songs. So there's this interconnected web to it, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sometimes it's fun to kind of reference some of your own stuff in the past, and once you do write enough, and maybe you borrow from yourself a little bit. I don't know, maybe that's natural, and maybe it feels a little cozy to kind of like keep your own songs close to your chest for company, and kind of spin variations on the themes. Maybe it means I need to, do more things in my life, bring up different
well, I mean,
ideas for songs. Who knows?
The Ramones released the same album 25 times. I mean, so sometimes that's what you want from someone is.
That's true.
Well, what did Springsteen say about not wanting
stop
not
writing
writing anymore?
if I had to
I think
stop
we got a
writing
lag.
songs after this record,
Really? Oh yeah. Well, we
I
Amanda
didn't
and I
catch the
were
last
talking
part.
about. All right. Amanda and I were talking about some Springsteen interview. I think it was on Howard Stern, and he said that he didn't write songs anymore, that he didn't feel like he needed to.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and it's an interesting place to be, I'm sure, for someone, you know, who has that kind of career. But, you know, maybe you get to that place, or you just accept the fact, you know, that you're in a different place in your kind of trajectory. I don't know.
He's saying if he can get better.
Okay.
Yeah, I try not to think about it. I try not to think about it too much. I really just try to, you know, really, for me, it's just about showing up and showing up with the new piece of music or a song, and trying to listen to where the story wants to take me, as opposed to showing up and saying, this is what I want to do. That works sometimes, and I know where I want to go with something, but a lot of it is just like an exercise in listening for something that's resonating on a level that you might not understand. Maybe as if it was a painter kind of paint.
Oh, I hate when that happens.
Yeah, I've been there.
That's right. When we get him back home, we'll get some dates from him and
Yeah.
where
Got a
to
lot.
find the album.
They definitely have a really robust tour. At least, you know, from their website, basically, they've got stuff listed through February of next year.
Nice.
So quite a bit. And I love to see that. I have to say, I don't know if we've heard so specifically called out before today about the whole booking a year in advance. That was
Right.
something kind of new for me. I have not considered that would be happening at all different venues, you know, different types of venues.
Right.
I for arenas, you know, that kind of thing. But to try to imagine where you're going to be that far out, or the competition for those
Right.
venues, that's
You're
just not.
booking for you're basically having to look at 2026 now.
Yeah, and that's like terrifying. I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to think about making plans. To me, that just adds another layer to this whole, you know, world of live music.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey,
We got you. We're good.
we got you.
Is this really live stream, or are you editing it down?
No, it's live. It's
We're
live.
just, we chit chat. We're good. I mean, it happens to all of us, you know.
What eventually will happen is it will be cut down and released as a podcast. So the podcast won't have the breaks in it, but the live stream, yeah.
Okay, well, I apologize. I moved
It's
into
the beauty
Terry's
of it.
house. I moved into Terry's house, and they're doing a bunch of construction, and it's crazy. So, anyway, I don't know how much you caught of that, but I was just trying to relate, you know, for the lack of a plan on some songs, you just kind of show up and start listening, and you try to find your way in, and that's what's fun,
Is there a process, or does it happen different for every song?
It's different. Hold on. We're real live here.
That's how we like it, Barry.
It's different for each song, I'll have a notebook of ideas that I'll write down without knowing what the story's going to be. The War Was in Color was a song that just started with that line, and I was like, well, what is that? I don't know. I'll just put it in this notebook for later. And then it became the title of a song. So sometimes I'll start with the idea. Sometimes I'll start with a melody, and I'll go grab a guitar and add some chords. Like I mentioned before, a great majority of it is the guys floating me ideas. on their instrument, or we get together in groups of 2s or 3s or the whole band and come up with the idea for me to take. And then I'll just have playlists of demos where I'll just take a drive and just start singing gibberish, and something comes up.
That's great. It's perfect. Yeah, well, we probably should have done this at the top. You want to throw out the rest of the guys in the band there so we have their names out there? I know Terry's been with you from the beginning. Have the rest of the guys, or have they come on after?
Terry has been with us from the beginning. Terry Clark, he's guitar and our studio engineer, and this is his house. Carter Gravett is our other guitarist, who's been with us since we formed. And then John Markle is our bassist of 15 years. And Jesse Humphrey is our drummer of, I guess, 7 years now. So we've been this group for, I think, is just about as long as, any of the other former members, Jesse and John, and it feels really good. So, yeah.
Right. That helps in the live performance all the years, doesn't it?
It does. It does. You can get really good at not paying attention to each other on stage sometimes. So you kind of have to remind yourself, we're always like eyes and ears, guys.
How do you have a kind of a style of communication? We hear it referred to as, telepathy a lot in terms of how that relationship is. Is that similar for all of you, you think?
It is. We also, tour with 2 crew members, a front of house engineer and a light designer. And we all do the, load in and load out. And when we move into a venue, we often, everything kind of falls silent. And we got some Labradors.
Hey,
Love it.
We once we get into a venue, we get real quiet. Everything gets real quiet because everybody kind of knows what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so there's a bit of a shorthand and a telepathy, and just comes from years of just kind of knowing what lane you're supposed to be in.
Yeah, for sure. And I would imagine over time as well, this might be an individual thing, but, being on stage and kind of being comfortable with more space, silence, letting moments happen. I would think over time it's more comfortable for that kind of thing. Do you feel like that's true for you just over the years?
Just in terms of being comfortable with each other, or
I guess, one of the things that kind of comes up for us every so often for people that have really been playing live for, a certain amount of time is trusting that if you leave space between passages, notes, whatever that might be, that not only is that okay, but that's actually a really wonderful thing to do versus feeling like compelled to be, like shredding it right every moment because you can.
Yeah, and it takes discipline to kind of to get out of that comfort zone, because you tend to gravitate towards what works, but sometimes after a while, what you might not realize it after too long that what works is now kind of grown stale. And that's what's so great about releasing a new album, especially after, a long time, and it being a real journey to get to it, is, it gives you kind of shakes you out of that zone a little bit. And you're on edge about, this new story that you're trying to not just figure out internally and externally, but also so that it's welcoming to everybody else. But yeah, I think we're not like this big improv band, we're kind of like a story-based a group, and the guys can pop off. I usually just get out of the way and let them do that. Nobody wants to see a singer jumping around, opening his mouth the whole time.
Right. Yeah. Robert Plant. I was always like, what is Robert Plant doing out there still? And in what was that movie? Song Remains the Same. When they did like, the whole side of the album was one song and he just stood there the whole time.
He's Robert Plant.
Robert Plant, right? What can you do? So your career, you've gone, we've talked about from when maybe the internet was in its infancy in the early days of the band, through using the internet to your great benefit, to where we are today with anybody can record anything in their home if they spend $200 on a good program. Do you feel like that record companies are even have a place anymore in all this?
Sure. I mean, I guess, it's not something I lose. It's not something I give great thought to or lose sleep over. I mean, we were thankful for our experience on a record label, and there were some people that, really championed the band. We had a lot of love from radio for a brief period of time. And while I would have liked the marketing and the money invested in us to have risen, the fact is, it's a tough trick to have that go like this. Mm-hmm. And, our career has been defined by, kind of this. And, right. The label experience, the radio experience was all a part of that, some high highs and some low lows. And then you have the band and everything going on with that, and the music you're putting out, and is it going to resonate or strike? There's so many variables that, you can't be bitter about, something not lasting over the long haul. You just have to be able to be thankful for what you did have. And we got very fortunate with the things that we did have. And so, the record label was great when it was, until it wasn't. And then it was time to move on. You know what I mean?
Right. And your fan base, though, your fan base has remained incredibly loyal over the years. That's one thing that you have that a lot of bands, in your similar situation, never had.
Right. And that's exactly the point. It's like, I'm not going to sit here and I realize how hard this is, and how many artists don't even get the opportunities or have their fortunes work out in a certain way before they can even get out the door. And, I'd say any young artist that can get a label's attention, and be able to use that marketing leverage, to their advantage, go for it. Right. It just depends on what you want and what you're willing to kind of trade, and a label can be a great marketing ally, or it can be a high interest loan, depending on, how the chips fall. And it just depends on, what you want out of it, but you certainly don't need it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. And there's a lot of resources out there these days, more and more, for independent artists. There's some nonprofits and other groups that are, I think, really actively trying to help artists kind of at whatever level with the business side of things, which is key.
Yeah. The ability to DIY, this whole thing has inspired, gosh, you can have a young kid in their bedroom making a record and putting it on TikTok with, and look at the extraordinary exposure they can get. I'm all for that. I love hearing those stories, it's just there's room. It's not a zero-sum game. You know what I mean? It's like, It's like if you can figure out a trick to to do it, I'm like, good for you. You know.
Mhm. Well, I saw an article recently. This guy got arrested. He apparently was making like just bot spam songs on Spotify, and he like made $1 million on doing it, but apparently it's illegal to do what he was doing.
Oh, interesting.
Oh yeah, I read that same article too. He was just like,
Yeah.
it was just like the titles were like zygote, zyglycerin, and he would record these, what, just 30-second, 40-second, 50-second songs, and
Yeah,
You
and get on playlist, and they would end up on like these huge Spotify jazz
Right.
playlists and things like
well,
that.
he
What?
created a anyway, he was a smart guy, and he did something that was
Is that like the
Dirty.
MIT?
It's ethically questionable.
Well, it's like
ethically
the MIT card counters, right, at casinos. Like technically, there's a letter of the law, and then there's other stuff. And
Hey,
I do
look.
respect the smarts, but I mean, I don't know.
I mean, yeah.
Or-
I mean, that
You're gonna
takes
hit the
away
road.
money. In theory, that takes away money from the artists who are supposed to be paid the royalties. That's where the problem is.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Oh yeah.
But it
I mean,
shows-
Spotify's a mess.
Well, it shows what a
It's just a
system it is to begin with, I think also,
Right.
that's where we are, that's actually something that a person could conceive of and do. So,
It goes back to my thing that Spotify doesn't sell music; they sell subscriptions. They could care less what the music was, as long as you pay $6.99 a month.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. Like, we can't rely on a traditional one-to-one anymore.
Right, exactly. So you're hitting the road. When does that start?
It starts on September 25th, so Tuesday. Coming up.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then on next Friday is the album comes out, or next Thursday, something like that.
We'll have the record with us on the few shows leading up to that, but then it hits kind of all the streaming on Friday the 27th. So,
and can we get physical copies of it online somewhere?
I mean, yeah, we got it'll be at carbonleaf.com, and or we have a digital distributor who's also doing some physical MGMs, doing some distribution. I'm not sure where yet. I actually need to go send that out today to them. But yeah, if you still rocking a 6-disc changer in your Honda Civic,
wow, that was
I mean,
out.
end of the day, you sell a CD, you're putting a little more money in your pocket than than me listening to it on Spotify at 0.0001 cents per listen.
Well, yeah, people have different needs, and we're doing vinyl as well, and people still like physical media, and so we actually kind of jammed to this with the CD and the vinyl have like a couple of posters like the old school days where you would like get stuff and a booklet that you could open, and
and merch. I was looking. I love the design that is associated with this album, and I know that you have other types of merch available. I think it's great. The feel of it is definitely nostalgic, but it's also like just perfect, I think, for anybody to kind of grab. So I want to make sure we mention that too. There's shirts. I know I saw a hat, a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, we scrambled to get some artists, to do some cool stuff around the record, and kind of like what you were saying. I wanted something that felt a little retro, but and familiar, but also kind of fresh. And so, I think we got some good stuff, at least some good stuff to hit the road with. They just delivered like 15 boxes of t-shirts in the driveway outside the studio. And so I'm like, all right, well, at least we got the album in, we got the t-shirts in, the stickers are in, we're waiting on the vinyl, we're waiting on the hats. It's just like,
cool. That's awesome.
It's fantastic, fantastic. Is there anything else that you'd like to throw out before we wrap up?
I mean, just come out to the show and check out the new record. And we've released a few singles. We're releasing a new single today. I'm not sure when this is actually. Well, it's
Okay.
live. It's live
It's
now,
live.
but
It's out there
Yeah.
now. That song is out there.
yeah, we just released the third single off the upcoming album. It's called "You and Me," and so that just kind of hit streaming this morning.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
I really like the 1983 song, though. I think Amanda and I are both thumbs up on the 1983
Big
song.
time. It's great. I'm excited to be able to share that too. We'll make sure to do that.
Yeah, I geeked out on that one, and I just at this point in my career, I want to write songs that are, that have some meaning to it and resonate, have a little bit of weight to it, but also, are hooky and fun and not necessarily just fun, but just like
Right.
fun for your ears, lots of different things to pull from. And so, I want to be able to, sing this stuff every night, and if it doesn't feel like that, then I just kind of abandon it.
Many years
What
ago, someone described music that they like as ice cream for your ears. And I never forgot that, because to me, that's such a perfect way to think about what we love. And that can take so many different forms. So I totally get where you're coming from.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Well, what does your gut tell you is the hit song on the new album? Which one do you think is going to resonate with people?
I don't know. And that's what's so fun and surprising, because like the last EP we put out, there's a song. Sorry, is that loud?
No, it's fine.
There's a song called "Everything's All Right, Mama" that we started playing, and I just thought it was kind of a, golf clap kind of song. But then like people started responding to it, and that's when it's fun when you realize that there's a song that makes kind of like, oh, this is now part of our core collection of songs, and it's such a nice relief to be like, okay, most of the people are getting this. That takes so much pressure off of you,
I love that. That's so fantastic.
But I'm not sure. I haven't been apart from the music long enough to know like what's really gonna be the thing. Maybe you have some perspective if you've heard it. First impressions.
I mean, I really think that the 1983 song is jumping out at me. I do not have the track list in front of me.
Yeah.
There were a couple that actually mentioned places, right?
Yeah, like Monday Night in Germantown.
That was the one, because I live near Germantown. I live in Sykesville, Maryland. So
okay, yeah. Well, and there's actually debate about whether it's Germantown, Maryland or Germantown, Pennsylvania right now.
I was going to say, I wondered about that, because I used to live in Pennsylvania and I immediately thought Pennsylvania.
That's right. So we know it's kind of inspired by an actual, a memory of playing Germantown on a Monday night. And and I want to say it was Pennsylvania, but I'm not quite, I don't have the records for it, but it was a long, long time ago when we first starting out, in the late 90s, we were playing these shows, these little weird pubs and things. And it's really an amalgam. It's kind of a composite character of venues, of all the kind of places that you kind of have to play. But
the dives, we love the dive bars.
Well, and not exactly. We love the dives, not necessarily in a derogatory way, but just, there's just independent venues out there doing it,
I feel home there. The 8x10, the Grog and you remember the Grog and Tankard in DC from back in the 80s and 90s? That place was such a hole, but so many great bands I saw there. I mean,
such a hole. Yeah,
I love it. There's a comfort in that. And I always say my natural habitat is a dark club. There's just something very familiar, I guess, about it. So I grew up in New Jersey near Asbury Park. So I was going to the Saint, obviously the Stone Pony, but all the local, all the local venues, and then elsewhere in the tri-state area. And I know of, some of those venues that you all had played and used to see you, when I was out and about. And you all have done so many shows, and you have so much lived experience through that. I love that you're kind of echoing some of that with that song about Germantown, and just kind of honoring where that was, because that was a real great time for live music too. Not that it's not right now, but it was special.
Right. And more and more, so many venues are being kind of, they're kind of conglomerated under a few, companies, and those are all great and all, but the history of a place that you go in and smell it, and you can kind of see things in the dim light, and it's a magical thing, it really is, that those places can still, be around. So
maybe I need to make a coffee table book about dive bars.
Oh, if that doesn't exist, that needs to exist. I would totally scoop that up.
Yeah, I mean, just think of the stories, and
yeah,
and so having those places, and here's the thing about those places, those are the places where new artists are going to get any kind of exposure. That's where you're going to start. And there is a charm to that in looking back. Now, in those days, it's like you're this young band out there excited to be doing your thing, but you're kind of smacked with the harsh reality that, you're going to play 10 to 2 to
yeah,
nobody.
10 people, right?
10 people if you're lucky.
Right. And in between songs, all you hear is the trash getting dumped behind the bar.
Well, and that was the whole point of this song. It's like the song starts where you're kind of, there's a dull hum from the, coming from the power lines. It's a dead calm all around.
Yeah.
The silhouettes bleed into sky like an ink pen drawing horizon lines. You're a ghost walking around this town in the middle, before a show, and it's 5:30, 6 o'clock. It's already dark. You have 4 hours before you're supposed to take the stage.
Yeah.
You have a handful of songs that no one's ever heard, and you're going to play them.
Wow.
And so it begins,
Mm-hmm.
So it begins. It's fantastic. I love it. So we're going to put a bunch of links down there for you. Amanda, did you have anything else before we wrapped up?
No, I just want to thank you, Barry, for joining us and just sharing so much. We really love what you all do, and we're super excited to talk with you today.
Well, I appreciate the conversation. Yeah.
Hang out for a sec while I run the outro. Everybody out there watching, if you're watching later, make sure that you leave a comment, subscribe, and remember, stay beautiful, but don't stay underground too long. We'll see you soon.